ISIS is a well-known terrorist organization whose origins date back to 1999 in Iraq and Syria. In recent years, ISIS has been using social media to grow and expand. Platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and even Instagram have allowed ISIS to not only spread their message, but also recruit rather effectively. Their propaganda mostly consists of 20-minute videos, full-length documentaries, photo essays, audio clips, and even pamphlets. All of this in almost every language possible, all over the world, to gain as much exposure as possible and to attract as many people as possible. The success ISIS has had on social media brings concern from the sites themselves. Facebook says any profile, page, or group related to a terrorist organization is shut down and any content celebrating terrorism is removed. The efforts from the sites themselves were not nearly enough to stop ISIS from creating a larger social media platform, so many private citizens decided to take matters into their own hands. As ISIS continued to grow and expand, so did the frustration and anger from many American and European civilians. So much so that many people began to take it upon themselves to travel to the Middle East to be part of the fight against the terrorist organization. Many of these people are former military and law enforcement members, and even many with no combat experience at all who believe they can make a difference. Among the civilians from overseas, there are also many men and women from Iraq and Syria fighting back to reclaim their homes. While the fight on the ground continues, ISIS grows more and more popular throughout their ongoing efforts with social media. And like those traveling to fight, many people have decided to attack ISIS online in efforts to stop their propaganda and slow them down. Many hacktivist groups have decided to take a stance against ISIS online, most notably the group Anonymous. Anonymous is a hacktivist group that is best known for its various cyber attacks against several governments, institutions, agencies, corporations, and even the Church of Scientology. Anonymous has not been known to attack terrorist organizations, so it came as a surprise when the group announced they were declaring war against ISIS. On November 13, 2015, in Paris, France, there were a series of attacks throughout the city, which involved suicide bombers and gunmen. 130 people were killed, along with another 413 injured. This was the deadliest attack France had seen since World War II, and ISIS claimed responsibility. A few days later, on their official Twitter account, Anonymous released a video declaring war against ISIS, threatening to expose them and shut them down. After declaring war on ISIS, the biggest question became, what can Anonymous actually do? Some of the acts taken by Anonymous include shutting down ISIS-related websites, hacking and taking over accounts and profiles on various social media platforms, hacking emails and exposing personal information, but more importantly, disrupting their recruitment. ISIS was excellent at using social media to spread their message and gain popularity, but they were even better at using it as a tool to recruit. Many people criticized the efforts done by Anonymous, but almost everyone agreed that if they could disrupt and slow down their recruitment, that would be enough to make a real impact. Doing this would also show that ISIS is vulnerable, but would it be enough to make a difference?
The cyber attacks executed by the private citizens have many beneficial outcomes. One being that the government officials have crucial information on ISIS members. This is usually because they obtain the IP addresses of the ISIS members, and this is beneficial because it allows them to know the location of the ISIS members based on their IP addresses. Twitter accounts also have been shut down, as well as websites that have ISIS members on them. This is beneficial because it prevents ISIS members from recruiting new members and also from spreading propaganda. The cyber attacks are viewed in two ways, one being that people are for it and the other being that people are against it. The US government seems to accept the behavior because they are also fighting ISIS. There's no point in them being opposed to something that they are on the same page with. A lot of tech companies and web hosts don't always agree with these cyber attacks because of the money that they're getting from the ISIS users using their apps and websites. One of the groups of private citizens named GhostSec claims that they warn web hosts when there are ISIS users on their servers before launching an attack. They say that 40% of the web hosts defend the rights of ISIS users on their servers, claiming that they have the right to free speech when they're on their servers. Another instance of someone being opposed to the cyber attacks is the co-founder of the Telegram app. This app allows ISIS users to message each other worldwide without any trace of whatever they're saying on the app. The co-founder, Pavel Durov, says, "Privacy ultimately, and our right to privacy, is more important than our fear of bad things happening, like terrorism." It's clear that in both of these cases, the money that ISIS is paying to use these services are preventing them from being attacked by hacktivists. Despite the fact that these groups of private citizens have no authorization to conduct these attacks, they still continue and have been going on for many years. The reason why they can still continue to do this is because these groups of private citizens and the governments around the world have a common enemy, which is ISIS. The governments of the world realize that there's no point in stopping groups from doing something that you were going to do in the first place. There's a mutual concern for public safety that they both want to achieve. As we saw in the previous slide concerning the behavior of hacktivists, we see that ISIS's rights to privacy and free speech are defended by tech companies and web hosts. This raises the question of whether or not the hacktivists should be respecting these basic human rights, regardless of the fact that ISIS is a terrorist organization. Does fighting terrorism outweigh the fact that they're disregarding basic human rights? One of the members of GhostSec seems to think so. He says, and I quote, "Free speech is not murder." To conclude, the hacktivists' intent is not to start a war from the cyber attacks they carried out. Their goals are to influence other private citizens and governments to take a stance against ISIS and to mount a resistance where before there was a void. They have proven to be successful with completing their goals as hacktivism is spreading worldwide. The hacktivists around the world are working hard to empower more to join the cyber warfare and hope to empower their respective governments to act as well, while at the same time stopping ISIS from moving forward with their acts of terror.